Dorothea Lange was known as one of the most influential American photographers in history. She was famous for her Depression-era work during the early to mid-1930s. Some of her most well-known pieces depicted the true hardships and harsh realities that people lived in during those tough times. During the early 1930s, some of her works were displayed in exhibitions, but were mostly used by the heads of the Resettlement Administration and Farm Security Administration offices to promote support for the workers. Other photographs were shown in newspapers and magazines, and all were shot in black and white. This first image is arguably one of her most famous pieces, titled Migrant Mother. The main subject is Florence Owens, who worked as a pea picker during the time, who was seen holding her two children, and this photo was taken in 1936 in Colorado. This photograph beautifully and gently captures the pain and hardships of what so many Americans lived through during that era. Though Owens was only in her 30s when this picture was taken, she looks haggard and tired, reflecting that of a much older woman. This image evokes such sadness and sympathy for the mother and her children, but beyond the anxiety written on her face, she still looks beautiful. Her gaze looks off to the distance, somewhat reflecting of what lies ahead of her. This next photograph, titled Toward Los Angeles, shows two weary men traveling along a dirt road towards the California city in 1937. This picture depicts a sort of cynical irony because the advertisement to the right of them suggests a leisurely train ride, yet this is during the Great Depression and they cannot afford it. The road, telephone poles, and edge of the road lead the viewer's eyes into a deep perspective that exaggerates the long road ahead of them. Audience who view this photograph feel empathy for the tired travelers and cannot help but pity them. This next image shows a row of 7 farmers in Yamhill County, Oregon in 1939. This, like so many other of Lange's images, depicts the struggle of Americans living through the Great Depression. These men have just bought farm machinery together, which evokes a feeling of hope in the viewers, knowing that there was a sense of camaraderie even during the toughest times. The vertical lines of the wood wall behind them creates a clean backdrop, but also mimics where the men are standing, creating clean parallel lines and symmetry. This final photograph was taken in New York City in 1932. The men we are seeing are all unemployed and waiting in line to receive a free dinner at New York's Municipal Lodging House, a shelter which was built in 1909. The diagonal line of hundreds of men leads the viewer's eyes from the bottom of the image to the top, going from left to right. The way that the men fade into the background creates the illusion that the line goes on forever and ever, just as I'm sure the men felt about how the Depression seemed endless. It's hard to imagine that such a great city such as New York was once in this state of sadness and desperation.